Like, what advice would you give someone who's trying to get into a serious relationship? Like, number one, I'll just take it off your guys' hands. Don't worry. Let me go from here. Don't. Like, do not. Don't.
Like Joey was saying, like first you have to ask your partner, like, hey, what is it that you want in the future? Like, for example, it would be, I believe that it would be a good idea to even go to counseling before getting married. Like, and being honest, like that's where you can be an honest person and be like, hey, this is my past. Because once you're in marriage and you find out about the person's past, it's too late. So you want to talk about things beforehand. Like even with the topic of sex, like how many days a week would you like to have sex? 100%. You know what I'm saying? And that's so important because that's when if you don't agree with your partner, that's when your partner is gonna be looking to the side and be like looking for other options. So even topics like that, like sex, in your marriage is super important. So I feel like, yeah, even counseling would be good. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that before I get married.
Well, I think it's huge. Like, everybody's their own book. We're all writing a book, and it's the story of our life. And then sometimes we need to, like, ask that person, wait a minute, are you even reading the same book? And if you are we on the same page? Because we might be reading two separate parts, and then because of that, we're appreciating it in a different context. So just kind of making sure that we're on that kind of level playing field.
Absolutely, that's super important. In fact, the other day I was speaking with this person, and we're talking about something that we had planned, and I was saying, I was saying some things about what we had planned, and they were saying another thing, and then I asked them, what do you think I think the plan is? And they said, well, this and that, this and that, this and that. I'm like, no, that's not what I think at all. So sometimes we'll be arguing about things we're not even sure what we're arguing about.
Yeah.
And so when these things aren't clear, when you don't sit down and understand the other people's viewpoint, you can't go anywhere because you're really talking about two different things. And so it's like the analogy of the blind people describing the elephant. So one of them touches the foot, and they're like, oh, this is a tree trunk because it's just like a thick thing. And someone else touches the tail, and they're like, it's a broomstick because it's just something that's hairy. Someone touches the tusk, and they say, well, I don't know, something pointy. But yeah, they're all touching the elephant, but they're seeing it from a different perspective. So they don't understand. They can't argue with each other about what it is that they're seeing because they're talking about two different things. So it's really important, I think, the way Joey put it, to really be on the same page, and from then on really go towards whatever goal you want to go.
Even with like having babies, like there's so many marriages that end in divorce because one doesn't want to have babies. You know what I'm saying? And then you're like, oh, but I thought you were down for it. Like, you changed your mind, or I just never told you that I wanted to have babies. You know what I'm saying?
I hear a lot of that excuse with even couples our age now, or even older couples that haven't had kids. With the rate of the world and how it's deteriorating, and with this society, how can I have kids now? Why would I want to raise them in this environment with destruction and so much hate and so much evil and all that stuff? Everybody's different. I mean, you do what you want. Do what you want.
I think that's a perspective too, though.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of good, and there is a lot of, like, it really comes down to, like we kind of talked about, what glasses that person's wearing depends on what they see. So, like, super quick, hate to do this to you guys. Actually, I really love it. So, like, everybody here, by the sounds of it, I'm just gonna, you guys can reaffirm that this is true or not. But you guys all want to get married.
Yes.
Yeah, so crazy, super crazy, really exciting. I'm glad they brought me because I don't want to get married whatsoever. For me, if I want to spend the rest of my life with that person, I'll do it. I don't need to have this binding agreement. That agreement's already been made, unspoken or spoken. Me and that person have already decided that we are going to unify and spend the rest of our lives together. So, like, also with children, you know, a lot of people, like you said, don't have that conversation. They need to have that conversation. Melissa really wants niños. She really wants children. And I'm like, that's awesome. I love kids. But like, I think that there's a lot of kids out there already that maybe don't have the families, or their families can't support them. So why not take this opportunity to have one of those? Like, you know what I mean? And I think it's just kind of coming to like bring your perspective, bring their perspective, and kind of unite. She really wants to have her marriage moment, and I'm kind of like, well, for me, it's not like anything special. I think it's just spending that time with that person, so then we can kind of meet in the middle, right, and find something that we both think would be beneficial to the parties involved.
Sorry, like I said, I like to talk. And in fact, I know we almost kissed there. Yeah, and maybe those of you watching, you'll notice that I actually didn't answer Joey's question about marriage, because I was speaking earlier with Carlos, actually. Often, when I look at my future plans, I'm not married. I'm doing something, and I don't see a partner next to me. Maybe because... I don't know what it is. Maybe because I right now there isn't a person that I see myself spending the rest of my life with. There's no one there, and maybe because I've never been in a relationship, so it's very like a foreign idea to me. In my mind, I still like don't picture it very clearly. But I personally think, for example, there's a lot of things that I'd like to do. I would like to be able to move around a lot. I used to move around a lot. In fact, when I was in the other countries, well, before I moved to Vancouver, I was in Dominican Republic, but before that, I was in Montreal, and I never spent more than 2 years at the same school. So I was always changing. And I got used to it. And then in Dominican Republic, I was at the same school for 6 years. So I guess I've seen a bit of both, but I really enjoy, especially because I've lived in Dominican and in Montreal, and I've traveled a bit. I really enjoy traveling. So it's not just anyone that would like to have such a, I guess, nomadic life. And right now, I don't have specific plans of living sometime here and living sometime there, but I've been exposed to cultures, and I really enjoy learning about other cultures. I enjoy learning about other languages. I've taken courses in Japanese. I took a course in German last term. I picked up some Farsi from some friends. So I really enjoy other cultures, and I really want to experience them. And it's not everyone that likes to do these things. And in fact, many people don't. Many people live in one city for all their lives. Maybe they go vacation here and there, but not immerse themselves in different cultures. So,
yeah, just to add to just to clear things up of, like, and it's so beautiful because we have different perspectives, right? Like, it's nice that we're all here, right? And like for us, I guess, why marriage is just so important is because we don't see marriage as a contract. You know what I'm saying? Like, for us, like my pastor always says, there's a difference between covenant and contract, right? A contract has an end date. You know what I'm saying? But a covenant doesn't. It's a promise. It's written. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we see marriage as like that. It's a covenant between us and whoever we're marrying. So, yeah. Thank you for sharing your view, though.
Thank you, Joey. That's a really bold move, and I appreciate you a lot. And that's what the whole basis of this podcast. To understand people's differences, their sides, their perspectives, their mind. To open their mind with like this being a safe space and this being a circle of friends, and actually we can learn from that as well. So thank you. Thank you.
It's great you brought up the word covenant, right? Because it is like it is. That's very similar to how I view it. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go and engage in a contract because that's, like you said, it's got an expiry. So like, maybe a lot of people now view a marriage as a contract, a legally binding thing where you share tax documents and you share obligations for children and you share, but maybe they're just seeing it for the kind of this, the world really loves to categorize things, especially the world that we live in. So maybe they're kind of seeing it as these categorizations. Maybe they need to I always say, when in doubt, zoom out. So maybe they need to zoom out and say, what's the kind of bigger picture that I'm trying to see here. So yeah, kind of that mutual understanding, but fundamentally sit down and think about it. Say I can't leave my marriage because I need to take care of my kids, because I need to take care of my husband, because we have a mortgage to pay, and then we have obligations to our family and our friends that see us as this great family. It all kind of comes down to this expectation of others. And realistically, when we sit down, we cannot help anybody else until we've helped ourselves. If you are not okay right now on the inside, how can you go and help anybody else with what they're going through or whatsoever? So, food for thought.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's I like what how do you move this? Oh, there you go. Just spin it around.
Thank you.
And I like that because it's also that's what we believe in, and you can't love others if you don't love yourself first. You know what I'm saying? The first step basically is loving yourself. And you're in an abusive relationship, or if you have been through it, or there was something that hurt you, or abuse in general, you know what I'm saying? Forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation, right? Obviously, this is a very
you said that earlier. Yeah,
a very important thing, and this is a very touchy topic in a marriage, right? It's like an addict. You know what I'm saying? It could get to that point where it's like an addict, right? First for example, alcohol, right? You drink, you leave it, right? But if you don't have the strength, you go back to it. You know what I'm saying?
Will.
Yeah. The will, and that's what abuse can do. You know what I'm saying? It's not that you want it, but it's just that it's there. You're weak and you take it back. You know what I'm saying? And for anybody else there that may have gone through this, like Carlos said, take your time and really analyze if this is what you want for you and your family, because it's important. It's important, man. 100%.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different factors that we could spend basically a whole podcast enumerating because of this, because people don't take marriage seriously because of communication, because we're not on the same page. But really, I think we tried to really make state the point that we think is the most important in a successful marriage, or I guess the number one cause of failure of marriages. So yeah, of course it's very complicated. It could be because of a bunch of different things, but really just for the sake of brevity, we mentioned one specific point, and we didn't really go into all the many things that could actually be happening.
Exactly.
We needed, not needed, but we needed a guy that went through a divorce to be here. I mean, that's not a funny thing, but I mean, that would have given us their perspective, guy or girl. How do you feel? Exactly. How do you cope? That could be a question. What was the mindset? What was the process?
Yeah.
Maybe we can even ask why, if they're comfortable talking about that.
All right, you guys, number 5, save the best for last. Super exciting. It's been absolutely riveting. So what advice would you give someone who's trying to get into a serious relationship? Number 1, I'll just take it off your guys' hands. Don't worry. Let me go from here. Do not try. It's kind of like you read into Eastern philosophy, and there's this great saying, way woo way, doing not doing. So don't try, don't move towards that, don't kind of put that in your agenda to get in a serious relationship. You should kind of I love gardens. I love gardening. So one thing that's really beautiful is that I plant a lot of plants, and they need water and they need sunlight. And some plants don't like growing beside other plants. And that's just something that you need to see over time. Just like the people that you surround yourself with, you need to see if those relationships are going to be fruitful, or maybe if those plants just don't grow so well together. So be yourself, do your thing, And everything that's kind of meant to happen along the way is going to find its way to you if that's what you need at the given moment in time. Let your garden grow. Like I always tell everybody, like plant seeds, plant your seeds, however you want to take that metaphor. I'm building a beautiful garden and you guys are becoming a part of my garden, right? You guys are my friends. I hope you guys agree. But like, you know,
I don't know who you are, man. You make me think of this when you're like,
yeah, but like you put,
it's true though.
it's so true, right? You you plant a garden. You want a really beautiful, fruitful environment to grow. Like you want to create an Amazon, not the big multi-million or multi-billion, multi-trillion-dollar company, but you want to create this incredible ecosystem that thrives and grows on itself, renews itself. If you just let the Amazon do its thing, it would be absolutely fine without our intervention, right? And that's how kind of I view a serious relationship. You don't need to intervene. It needs to be natural, and you need to do your thing. And like, I don't think an intervention would be, you saying, let's talk about this. That's natural. That's normal. That's healthy. That's not an intervention. So just kind of don't try. Let it happen and do your thing.
That's new. That's good. Thank you for sharing that.
Damn. What do I say to that?
Zam, Zaddy, Zam.
Mic drop.
Wrap up. We're done here.
Oh man, what advice would I give someone who's trying to get into a serious relationship? I would say get to know yourself. Get to know who you are, and take time. Like if you've been in casual relationships or you've been in Tinder, just don't go on Tinder. But if you've been on apps and you're trying to find love there, try to find it somewhere else. Try to let it come to you first, right? Don't be so desperate. I guess that's the one advice I would say. Just you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, man. Like it's not so bad, right?
But like that could be a hormonal thing too. Like people, they just wanna.
Yeah, and
do
we've all been there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we've all been hormonal. And that's the thing. Like don't get your emotions take over your mind, right? Like our emotions, like the Bible says that the heart it's deceiving, right? Like our emotions are deceiving. So I guess we as Christians to really ask God, like, is this what you really want for me? Like, is this person the right person for me? Is this person gonna get me further, or is it gonna get me closer to you? You know what I'm saying? So I guess really ask God, and but most of all, just know your weaknesses and admit them, right? Just be like, hey man, like I struggle. Be like, hey, I struggle with, I don't know what guys struggle with or girls struggle with, like pornography or masturbation, right? If you want to step in a relationship with those, with that mindset of, like, okay, I watch porn every day, you're gonna break your relationship, because you're gonna place that mindset and that fantasy world into your relationship. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna see your basically your partner as a porn star, and that's not good. You know what I'm saying? Like, exactly, they're not.
Maybe you're dating a
Why?
Maybe you're dating a porn star.
in a Christian situation.
Yes, but
Like there's so many things that we struggle with in our personal and our private life that we take into our relationships after, and that's when we suffer. You know what I'm saying? And be honest with yourself. Like that's the thing. Don't be like, hey, I can do this when I'm in that relationship, because that's only gonna affect your entire relationship. So just being honest with yourself and be like, hey man, I struggle, and have friends too. Like that's the one important
have
thing, man.
friends, be social.
Man, you need to, like, if you get into a serious relationship and everything you depend on is that relationship, that woman, that guy, you're gonna suffer the minute that relationship ends. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna have nobody, right? For us Christians, we have God to rely on, but God has always also given us relationships, right? To be like, for them to be like, hey man, like, you talk to her the wrong way, or you're not talking to her right, or maybe you should try it this way, or you know what I'm saying? Like, someone who can give you perspective in your relationship, right? That's why we've been given relationships. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, definitely have that. Have relationships.
I agree with you a lot.
Have relationships that can guide you and lead you. Deal with your struggles before you get into a relationship. Like, those can break you or make you, and then yeah, really get to know yourself, get to know who you are. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, so what advice would I give to a person that wants to get into a relationship? I think, personally, it would be the following. Emotions are good, but make a decision with your brain. And don't get me wrong, like I said, it is nice to feel emotions, and often that is why we like relationships, because we feel love and we feel this and we feel that. But emotions change. We feel one way one time and we feel a different way another time. So if you make a decision based on an emotion, chances are you might regret that choice.
Yeah.
And the odds are overwhelming against you, because how many of you feel happy 24/7? It's very unlikely.
Yeah.
How many of you feel a certain way, a certain emotion 24/7? Hopefully you're not. I mean, even when you are depressed, there are I guess some moments of light in the middle of that. So it's not always a good decision to make a decision based on emotions. I was gonna say something. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but yes, I think that's important to understand the role that emotions have, and to not let emotions dictate your decisions. I'd say 50-50, but I'd say it's a bit more like 60-40. 40 for emotions and 60 for rationality, for using your brain, because obviously emotions are important in a relationship. I'm not saying they're not important at all, but they shouldn't be the deciding factor.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's what the advice that I would give to a person that's trying to get into a relationship.
I feel like you got something to say about that.
You're keeping your mouth quiet, you naughty boy.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, you know, I'll mention it after, because it's a little different. It's an
Okay.
alternative.
So the question is, what advice would you give someone that is before they enter a serious relationship? Take your time later on when you're an adult.
Mm-hmm.
You know, take your time. I agree with every single bit that Eduardo has said, Matias has said, and what Joey has said. Take your time. I believe and I don't want to put a negative light or anything, but in my experience, I felt a little pushed to be in a relationship, you know, out of the three, and I wanted to take time. I wanted to take time. I think I've said this to both of you, Eduardo and Matias. I wanted to take time. And actually, I know I was telling you the story today, right now, in the van. I wanted to take time. And myself in that phase, I wasn't in the right phase. I guess I was, maybe yes, maybe not. I was looking for a relationship, but not that quick. I wanted to take time and understand you as a friend. Know how you think.
Yeah.
Know your pain. If you trust me throughout the friendship stage.
Yeah.
Know my flaws.
Exactly.
Let me know your flaws. You know? Hang out. Be casual. I'm not saying, I'm going out with a girl and I have to hold her hand. I have to kiss her. No, like, take time. That's my favorite word. I mean, I've been posting on Instagram and Facebook. Time. Something about time. You know, time is our best friend, but at the same time, time is our worst enemy. You know,
If you're thirsty.
well, yeah, you know, taking time will make a beautiful thing. And sometimes taking time may not make a beautiful thing. If you make a quick decision without taking the time, it could work. So it has happened. There's couples that they've met right away in a week, in a month, and they get married in a month, and they've been together for 50 years. I mean, it has happened. I don't know any, but it has happened. If you don't take your time, and don't let each other grow and know each other, obviously it won't work.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel connected to that one. Take your time, you know. Yeah.
Time is relative.
I'm gonna add.
He's
I'm gonna add something to that. Time.
He's a physicist.
I wanna add something to that. I just, you know, time is important, but I don't know. I feel that once you are at a stage that you want to take a serious relationship. One of our good friends mentions this, and this is about marriage, but this applies to serious relationships too. Taking that decision is just like, you know, going for a driving test. You know what I'm saying? You can study the book all you want. You can read the manual. But if you go to the test, you know, without ever touching the car and touching the wheel, you know, it's just, you're going to fail. You know what I'm saying? And it's a given, right? Like if it's your first time, you know, getting into a serious relationship, it might fail or you might pass. You know what I'm saying? But at least you tried, you know? But just being ready, right? Being ready beforehand, that's important. You know what I'm saying? Like that example is good, you know?
Yeah, that's very good. Joey, what's your
Yeah,
your
super crazy, right?
side.
So we kind of spoke about emotion and logic and making, you know, a logical decision when getting into that. See, I kind of like, maybe it's the artistic approach that I like to take to things, but I sometimes think that emotion is maybe the purest thing that we can do, whereas sometimes if we sit down and use logic, it like, I tend to think that sometimes that may be what's been indoctrinated into us, and that we need to sit down and kind of have this rigorous structure and maybe not just enjoy this emotional impulse that's maybe our true or honest or genuine self. Like some things that we maybe don't want to show our emotion, that we're unbridled or we're excited. And I think that like if you're holding something pent up, that's not healthy emotion. But like I use profanity when I'm out there, but it's in a positive light. Her what is that, like hurry the foxtrot, umbrella, Charlie Kilo up. We had also kind of spoken about time, and like, you know, you mentioned time is relative, but like at the end of the day, you maybe only have 80 years, right? Like, you know, if you're lucky, let's say the average life expectancy is 80 something years. So you have 80 rotations around the sun. Exciting. But we really sit down and think about that. And then you think that like, that's not a lot of time. There's a lot of trees that are older than that. There's a lot of little plants that are older than that, right? So then you actually start to think and take that into context, that every moment that you spend with the people around you in these relationships becomes all that more important, because it is actually such a small amount of time in the grand scheme of things. So you better make it worth it, right? Like, let's not flounder
Don't
about.
take too much time. Yeah.
Really
Obviously.
enjoy what you're spending your time doing, because we don't have a lot of it in all honesty. Like 80 years, I won't be able to accomplish everything I want to do in my life.
And I think it's important too that you don't get to be so picky, bro. You know, like dude, there's some girls and guys that are just so picky, man, and they let time go by, and you know, they don't end up being in a relationship, they end up single their whole life. You know what I'm saying? So just realizing that nobody's perfect.
It's gonna be compromise.
Nobody's perfect.
Compromise.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
everybody has their flaws. Or like, oh, she's not that great of a cook. She doesn't cook that good, man. She burns the rice all the time.
Or even way high standards that are pretty ridiculous, you know, from a normal view.
Exactly. Like if
Yeah.
she's not vegan or if he's not vegan, I'm not marrying them.
What-
But I
what-
love them though. Oh man, come on.
What are you
man.
trying to say, Cross? What are you trying to say?
What do you mean?
No, I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
No, and luckily I wouldn't care if I end up single my whole life. To some extent, I personally think that it is a choice that I make. At the end of the day, who I want to spend the rest of my life with, and if I don't think I will be satisfied with the choice that I make, I'd rather not make that choice. And like I said, it's been 24 years of it, and 24 more, or maybe even like 48 more. It's not gonna kill me. I'm not gonna die because I never chose a partner in life. But yeah, I guess loneliness, it will be a factor. But like I said, life is hard. So being in a relationship is hard, just as being single is hard. And I guess to talk about what Joey said about emotions being, I guess the quintessential, the quintessence, I guess, of humanity. Yeah, it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast. Was it this morning? It might have been this morning. Speaking about our sense of having free will and logical reasoning that is in fact heavily influenced in our limbic system and all these things. So really, it's sort of like emotions that we're unaware of that affect us. So I sort of have to concede to Joey there, because at the end of the day, it sort of is like your emotions, but I'm speaking more of the ones that we have a handle and a grasp on. Like I said, you might have a good time with this person right now, but maybe it's because you don't know that they eat with their mouth open or something. They chew with their mouth open, and then you find out, and it's like a pet peeve. And so yeah, there's stop. But yeah. So I'm speaking of those situations when you're sort of blinded by the good things that are happening that you don't notice the bad. And compromise is important, but there are certain things that you should have standards. And I'm not saying like incredibly high standards, like a 28-inch waist or something like that. That's a bit ridiculous, because no one's gonna be like that forever. And even if they are, it's still it's maybe if it does something for your relationship, but really at the end of the day, a relationship is two human beings, not really two bodies or breasts or whatever you're into. I'm more of a butt guy, but yeah. So no, in the end, it's a companionship with the other person, and you're not gonna have a conversation with their body. Well, yeah, I guess their vocal cords are in their body, but no, what I'm saying is with the physical aspect, it's more of their personality, their soul. If in the sense there's something that makes us all different. I'm not saying you might not prescribe to the idea that there is something different from the body, but there is something that makes us all different, and that's what I speak of when I speak of soul. So I think yes, that in the end it boils down to that.
It's a matter of like just knowing how to distinguish the primary things and the secondary things. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love this person. We have, similarities. I can see myself spending the rest of my life with this person. Yeah. But then people just focus on, like, there's a saying, it's a thing that my pastor says. You can go to a mansion, right? But the mansion could be so beautiful. But if there's a hole on the wall, that's the only thing you focus on. But it's a mansion. Yeah, but there's a hole. It's supposed to be beautiful, and those are the things that we tend to do sometimes in a relationship, or before we get into a relationship. Like, we see the person, the beautiful person, but we try to look for that little thing that can be like, hey, I'm not going to get into this because you're not ready. In reality, we're the ones that we're not because we're thinking like that. You know what I'm saying? So just focusing on the primary issues of things, and then, you know, talking about the secondary issues.
Yeah. You have anything else to add, Joey?
That's fine. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Really, really
Okay.
nice.
So we finished all 5 questions. Is there? I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Do you have anything else to say or to give to input based on anything that we've spoken, or another question? I don't know.
Another question.
But yeah, no.
Well, I guess I want to say one last thing. One last thing. Thank you.
Okay. Do you know anything, Joey?
Comment section below.
Okay.
Like, thumbs up. Huge, you guys. That's just like, you have no idea how big that is for the YouTube algorithm. Maybe you do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, you would probably advocate for that as well.
Do you have anything else to say, Matthias?
No, I'm good. I've said a lot.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you, Joey, Matthias, Eduardo, for being here tonight. It's literally 1 a.m. exact.
You can go for hours, man.
Yeah, anybody can go. I love these late night talks.
You can go for hours. You can go for hours. I think
I gotta go to bed.
You know, I wanna say I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys opening up every single mind and aspect and view. You know, I believe that these views let us grow together as friends, as relationships, as what we're talking about. And I'm excited for the future. You know, terrible things may have happened in our past. We learn, we grow, and may we be stronger for whatever's gonna happen next. You know, all in God's name, obviously. May He give us the will to continue on, but to do the right decisions, not to be in that vicious cycle. And love yourself, right? And hopefully we will have different topics, different conversations with different people. I'm very excited for that, and I want to say thank you for the people who are going to watch this and listening to us. And there's no name. That's another thing for that I've been wondering. I don't have a name for this podcast. Should I have a name? I don't know. I'll figure it out. But right now it's just a couple of guys talking, you know. So I just want to say thank you once again. Good night. And good luck, I guess.
Or good morning, whatever part of the world and whatever time you're watching.
Thank you, guys.
I like the little nod at the end.
Not of approval.
Alright, let's hear the
That
audio.
was dope. That was fun.
Play it. Play the audio.
Dope.
Play the audio, dog.